nutrients such as carbon and nitrogen. Nutrition such as carbon and nitrogen are not endless resources. Nutrients such as carbon and nitrogen are not endless resources. Okay? Are not endless resources. There is a finite amount of each element. There is a finite amount of each element on the planet. There is a finite amount of each element on the planet. There is a finite amount. Is Sarah there?
Yes, sir.
There is a finite amount of each element on the planet. As such, they need to be recycled. As such, they need to be recycled to allow new organisms to be made and grow. As such, they need to be recycled to allow new organisms to be made and to grow. Clear? Making sense? Or not making sense? Making sense, huh? It's only Yasin who is not there. I think it's network. Samantha is there. She's there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, next point is that carbon is taken out of the atmosphere. Carbon is taken out of the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. Carbon is taken out of the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide by plants to be used for photosynthesis. To be used for photosynthesis. Clear now?
So,
So don't write it down. I just need to show you something that we're talking of carbon here. Carbon dioxide plus water. Don't write anything like this. We form glucose plus oxygen. Now, my keyword is this carbon is the one that we are concentrating on. Is part of the glucose molecule. Clear? Can you see that? And plants will eat that. Animals will eat that. So it's this carbon here is part of that. So now the next point is that, okay, by photosynthesis, it is passed on to animals. It is passed on to animals and microorganisms by feeding. So when they eat plants, they eat this carbon. Is that making sense? So it is passed on to animals and microorganisms by feeding. Because when you feed carbohydrates, they are made of carbon. Clear now? When they eat the plants by feeding. Make sense?
yes, sir.
Next point is that it is returned to the atmosphere. Next point, it is returned to the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. In the form of carbon dioxide by plants, animals, and microorganisms as a result of respiration. plants, animals, and microorganisms as a result of respiration. Clear? The next point, which is very important, is that if animals and plants die, 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 where decomposing microorganisms are not present, where decomposing microorganisms are not present, where decomposing microorganisms are not present, clear? They are not present. The carbon in their bodies, the carbon in their bodies is converted over millions of years, is converted over millions of years under significant pressure into fossil fuels. Is converted over millions of years under significant pressure into fossil fuels. Clear? I hope it's clear. Clear or not clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Next point, when the fossil fuel is burned, yes, when the fossil fuel is burned, in brackets, when the fossil fuel is burnt, then brackets, is burned, brackets, this process is known as combustion. In brackets, this process is known as combustion, then you close brackets. Carbon combines with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, which is released into the atmosphere. Carbon combines with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, which is released into the atmosphere. Clear? Into the atmosphere. So you get different diagrams of carbon cycle. I'll just show you something from the internet here. In your books, you have got different diagrams of carbon. But what you have, everything that you have said here is all you need to know about carbon cycle. It's very easy. So, but it's just to identify processes. That's why I want to show you something. So there can be many different diagrams in different ways. Let me just stop share here and check what I want here. Okay, carbon cycle. Let's see if we have a good one. These are just funny diagrams. Wait a minute. So sometimes it's to identify the processes in a question. Carbon cycle. I'm going to use what I call a carbon cycle flow diagram. Okay, you can't see my whiteboard, huh?
No, sir.
Can you see this carbon cycle flow diagram? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I've got plants here. So if it's carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to plants, it's photosynthesis. Huh? So that's why I'm saying sometimes you need to know the processes. Clear there. You see, it's photosynthesis there. Then if it's now plants back to the atmosphere, it's a respiration, you see? Respiration and metabolism. Can you see that? Then fossil fuel here, you could do combustion, you burn it, you form carbon dioxide. Make sense? Then
Yes.
green plants, remember I said in the presence of microorganisms over years, is formation of what? Or your fossil fuels. Huh? Yeah, there. Then animals can eat, you see? They eat plants there, so they eat the carbon. Huh? But the animals, they respire and they release the carbon dioxide. So it's a continuous cycle. Is that making sense? Both animals and plants can die and they decay. When they decay, these are decomposers. Huh? Decomposing, that respiration takes place, carbon dioxide goes back to the atmosphere. It's very easy process. Is that making sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next time we'll look at questions. Now, let's look at the nitrogen cycle. That's the one that can be a bit tricky if I put it in that way. But it's not tricky. So nitrogen cycle. Then write a subheading there. Nitrogen cycle. Let's go back to our main nose whiteboard there. Nitrogen cycle. Clear. Now under nitrogen cycle, so we want to write notes first. Nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is essential to make proteins. Nitrogen is essential to make proteins. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Next point. Neither, which is very important, neither plants or animals, can absorb, nitrogen from the atmosphere. Neither animals or plants can absorb N2, nitrogen, from the atmosphere. Exists as diatomic N2. Neither of them can absorb nitrogen. Nitrogen, so I'm saying when I say nitrogen, you can write nitrogen. In brackets, you can write N2, it's diatomic N2. Is very stable. Is very stable and has got a triple bond. It has got a triple bond between the nitrogen, like this. It has a triple bond between the nitrogen atoms. And there's a triple bond between the nitrogen atoms, which means it needs massive energy, massive amount of energy to break. Are we together? Which means it needs massive amount of energy to break. Clear? So now
Yes,
it will lead us to a question now. If the animals cannot absorb the carbon dioxide, nor the plants, how is it used up by animals and the plants? Huh? Now the next point is that, however, there are two ways it can be taken out of the atmosphere. However, there are two ways it can be taken out of the atmosphere. However, there are two ways it can be taken out of the atmosphere and converted into something easy to absorb, and converted into a form that is easy to absorb. And converted into a form that is easy to absorb. Clear? Are we together?
Yes.
Number one, nitrogen fixing bacteria. We have something called a nitrogen fixing bacteria. Nitrifying bacteria. Nitrogen, then if with the denitrifying, we'll look at that later. Nitrogen fixing bacteria. These bacteria are free living in soil and also in the roots of leguminous plants. Clear? If you do biology, you know leguminous plants, peas, beans, all that. Huh? These bacteria are also in the root of leguminous plants. Clear?
Yes.
The nitrogen fixing bacteria take the N2 from the atmosphere. They take the N2 gas from the atmosphere and change it into nitrates in the soil. And change it into nitrates in the soil. And change it into nitrates in the soil. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Number two, lightning. Lightning. Lightning can split, because remember lightning has got a very high energy, can split the bond, can split the bond between the two atoms in nitrogen. Can split the bond between the two atoms in nitrogen. Clear? Can split the bonds between the two atoms in nitrogen. Clear?
Yes, sir.
And the nitrogen, and now the nitrogen reacts with oxygen in the atmosphere. It now reacts with oxygen in the atmosphere to form two oxides, two nitrous oxides. So it forms, we now have N2O and NO2. Those are the two nitrous oxides that are formed. When lightning, it splits. So lightning splits this so that this nitrogen can react with oxygen. It forms that or that. Two nitrous in the atmosphere. Clear? Making sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is dinitrogen oxide, if you want the name. Dinitrogen oxide. This is nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide. Oxide, two oxides. Then this is dinitrogen oxide. Clear? Makes sense?
Yes, sir.
The two nitrous oxides dissolve in rainwater and leach in the soil to form nitrates. The two nitrous oxides dissolve in rainwater and leach in the soil. Dissolve in the rainwater. Yasin, we are recording. I'll send you the recording here. You missed It's a
All
very
right, thanks, sir.
important part here, but you can still remain
All
in.
right, thank you, sir.
Okay. It's a very important lesson. We're looking at the carbon cycle. Now we're looking at the nitrogen cycle. Now, next point under that, so the nitrogen cycle we have talked about, we said nitrogen they have to be a way for the nitrogen to be converted into something useful. And we said there are two ways. There is the nitrifying bacteria, which is in the soil, in the roots of your leguminous plants. We said it converts the nitrogen, the nitrogen gas from the atmosphere into nitrate ions, or into nitrates, which can be easily absorbed by the plants. Number two, since we said the nitrogen has got a triple bond, which is not easy to break, we said lightning, because of the high energy, can break this bond. When it breaks this bond, nitrogen now reacts with oxygen to form these two oxides. And these two oxides can easily dissolve in the rainwater and leach in the soil. Clear? Now, the next point is that plants absorb nitrates. Plants absorb nitrates from the soil. Plants absorb nitrates from the soil and use nitrogen to make proteins. Plants absorb nitrates from the soil and use nitrogen to make proteins. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Animals eat
Yes, sir.
plants. Animals eat plants or other animals. Animals eat plants or other animals and get the nitrogen they need from the proteins. And get the nitrogen they want from the proteins. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Next point,
Yes, sir.
urine and feces from animals, send nitrogen back into the soil as ammonium compounds. Urine and feces send nitrogen back into the soil as ammonium compounds. Clear? Another point, when animals and plants die, they decay, and all the proteins inside them are broken down into ammonium compounds. They decay and all the proteins in them are broken down by decomposers into ammonium compounds. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Next point, which is very important. Plants cannot absorb the ammonium compounds we're talking about. Plants cannot absorb ammonium compounds. Clear? Therefore, nitrifying bacteria, so this is a different type of bacteria now. So the other one was nitrogen fixing bacteria, the one that we said converts your nitrogen in the atmosphere into nitrates in the soil. Now, so we're saying nitrifying bacteria convert the ammonium compounds to nitrates. Sorry, to nitrates, and then to nitrates. To nitrates and then to nitrates. To nitrates, then to
Sir, please may you repeat?
nitrates. where were you lost? I said the animals cannot absorb ammonium compounds. Therefore, nitrifying bacteria convert the ammonium compounds to nitrates and then to nitrates. Once it's nitrates, the plants can absorb nitrates. Clear? Finally, there is, next point, there is a third useful type of bacteria called denitrifying bacteria. Found in poorly aerated soils. So, aerated, it means soils without enough oxygen. In brackets, soils without enough oxygen. Found in poorly aerated soils, in brackets, soils without enough oxygen. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
The denitrifying bacteria convert the nitrates in the soil. The denitrifying bacteria converts the nitrates in the soil back to nitrogen gas, which is released into the atmospheres.
Sir, can you repeat?
Yes. I said the nitrifying bacteria converts the nitrates in the soil into nitrogen gas, which is released into the atmosphere. A and B, this is not good for plants. Huh? Why? Because plants need nitrates. Huh? So can you see that that denitrifying bacteria is now taking some of those nitrates and converting back to nitrogen, huh? Which is useless. It's not good for the plants. Huh? So this is not good for the plants. Are we together? And B, I said this is not good for the plants. Farmers can help reduce the amount of this unhelpful bacteria. Farmers can help to reduce the amount of this unhelpful bacteria by plowing and turning over the soil. So you are trying to improve the aeration, huh? Clear? By plowing and turning over the soil. Together or not together? Are we together then?
Yes.
Homework?
Yes, sir. Please can you repeat this?
Which part?
The farmers can reduce the effects. Yes.
He said the farmers can reduce the effect of this unhelpful bacteria. We're talking of the denitrifying bacteria by plowing and turning over the soil. By plowing and turning over the soil.
Thank you.
Because you want to improve aeration so that the respiration takes place. Now, so that you can have enough oxygen. So your homework, you can write it down. We should be done now, between now and 10, where you're supposed to done your lesson. Draw in your notebooks. You can use your textbooks, huh? or soft copy that I do. Draw the diagrams for carbon cycle and nitrogen cycle. We studied that. Next bio lesson will be a short exercise. Clear?
Draw for what, sir?
Draw the diagram for nitrogen cycle and draw the diagram for carbon cycle. That's all. The diagrams. You're supposed to identify, to know the processes is what is important. Clear?
Yes.
Because for nitrogen cycle, we said
Yes, sir.
the nitrogen fixing bacteria. So it's fixing nitrogen from the atmosphere into the soil to nitrates. Then we have the nitrifying bacteria, which is now taking the remember with the nitrifying bacteria, that's what he said. Then we have the denitrifying bacteria, which is what we don't want. But anyway, it's part of the nitrogen. I gave you all the notes. So just go through those diagrams, read more on that. Then next bio is a short exercise on that. Clear? I'll send you the report today. We are done for today.
All right, thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.